Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here, and in this guide for Demon's Souls Remake, I'm going to show you the locations of some great early game weapons. This is a follow-up to a video I did back when the game first came out, where I showed you how to get the Crescent Falchion +1, but there are a lot of other great weapons that are available very early on in your adventure that I wanted to showcase. For the sake of posterity, I'll also be covering the Crescent Falchion location again, in case you didn't catch that earlier video. All of the weapons shown in this guide are available after defeating Phalanx in the Gates of Boletaria archstone. Additionally, they are all available in the first level of their respective worlds, with the exception of the Winged Spear, which is available in the Lord's Path level 1-2. Some of these weapons can be wielded effectively without needing to upgrade any base stats, depending on which starting class you chose. Most, however, will require 3 or 4 points to be invested in either strength, dexterity, or both in order to wield effectively. One important thing to note about many of these weapons is that if they have an infusion on them, such as Crushing, Mercury, Crescent, or Blessed, they cannot be upgraded through normal means with Blacksmith Baldwin in the Nexus. They must be upgraded with Blacksmith Ed in Stonefang. To reach Blacksmith Ed, head to the Smithing Grounds Archstone and proceed through the level like normal. Once you reach the area with the 3 scale miners with broken longswords, head out of the mine and onto the scaffolds. At the end of this area, you'll see an elevator switch which activates a shortcut back to the Archstone. If you ride the elevator all the way down, you can speak with Blacksmith Ed for infused upgrades. There is no special menu for infused upgrades, but if you have the required materials, you'll be able to upgrade those weapons. Ed also creates boss weapons, but you must defeat Flame Lurker and give him the Searing Demon Soul before he'll be able to do that for you. If you're looking for a specific weapon, check the timestamps in the description so you can skip right to it. I'll be taking you through the locations in world order, starting in Boletarian Palace and ending in Valley of Defilement. Again, all these weapons are available after defeating Phalanx in level 1-1, the Gates of Boletaria. If you haven't yet defeated Phalanx, return here once you do so you can get yourself a great early game boost with one or more of these weapons. The first weapon we're going to cover is the Winged Spear. This is available in the Lord's Path, level 1-2. Once you are at the bridge in the first section, you want to just chase behind the dragon as it's breathing fire, and then loot this first corpse on the left for the Winged Spear. Once you loot it, run into the alcove in the rampart to be safe from the dragon's breath on its next pass. The Winged Spear requires 13 strength and 12 dex. It has E scaling on strength and D scaling on dex, so not great, but the bonus here is piercing damage, which is great against the scale miners in Stonefang, and given that it's a spear, it's a really good weapon for tight alcoves and tight tunnels, which you will experience in basically every world of the game, with very little exception. Next up is the Crushing Battle Axe +1, and this is available in the Smithing Grounds Archstone in the world of Stonefang, which is the second world. From the Archstone, we're going to walk up the steps, turn around, and wait for these scale miners to finish throwing their boulders. And then once you have a bit of a lull, you want to run across the field and then into the building. There is an elevator switch next to this doorway right here. It's easy to miss, believe it or not. I've missed it a few times. But hitting that switch activates these platforms out here, and we can ride these up to the second level. Inside of this next room, we're going to have to deal with a fat official who has a whip for a melee weapon, and he also has the Flame Toss spell, as well as Combustion, which is a close-range pyromancy. So you want to try to avoid all that. Once he's down, take care of the 2 scale miners, and then on this corpse here, right on this balcony, is the Crushing Battle Axe +1. Crushing is an infusion that increases the strength bonus of a weapon while removing any dex bonuses. It has S scaling at +5, but it does take a while to upgrade. The upgrade material, Greystone, is found all over Stonefang. This isn't the best weapon for crushing, but it is great for early game. I don't recommend investing too much into the upgrades, as you're better off upgrading something like the Dragon Bone Smasher for strength builds, but this is a very strong early game weapon. Next up is the Mercury Rapier +1, as well as the Estoc. These are available in the Prison of Hope Archstone, which is the first level of Tower of Latria. I have defeated all the enemies along this path, and I also have all the keys. If you haven't made it to the Ballista Bridge, which is a very obvious location, you'll know when you've reached it. But if you have not reached that bridge yet, keep proceeding through the level until you do. If you need any help in this level, I have a full walkthrough for the stage, which I will link in the description, and I'll also put a little info card in the corner here just so you can go there. That guide does have chapters broken down by key locations, so in case you're missing one key or you're just stuck in a certain spot, you should be able to skip to that section of the guide and have an easier time. Okay, so in the prison, we're going to reach the opposite side, and then we're going to go all the way down to the first floor. Again, I have all these doors unlocked. There is a key right here, near that hint, that one everyone forgets. Once you're on the first floor, all the way down this staircase here, we are going to run all the way across past the prisoner horde enemy, which is just a big ball of prisoners. For some reason, you would think they drop a good item. They never do. They have a really terrible loot table. But you want to run all the way across, avoiding the soul rays, and then out the door, and then into the ballista bridge area. So there are a couple of pathways that you can walk along near these broken fences that you can jump down onto. This one leads to a Stone of Ephemeral Eyes, I believe. That's not the one we're after. Instead, we're going to go to the sort of northern portion of this section, and there's another broken gate here. So you want to carefully drop down onto this walkway, and then there's a corpse at the very end, and this corpse has the Mercury rapier +1. The Estoc is right behind this weapon. However, it takes a little while to get to. So the Mercury rapier +1 has a strength requirement of 8 and a dexterity requirement of 12. Mercury is an upgrade that adds poison to weapons. So you can see that it has 120 poison damage as a bonus on this weapon. So you need to attack an enemy a few times in order for the poison to be inflicted, and then it creates a damage over time, or a dot effect on that enemy. The upgrade material, Mercury Stone, is found all over Latria, so it's not that hard to upgrade. And rapiers have a thrusting attack when they're being two-handed, which makes it really strong for narrow passageways. This rapier also has piercing damage, which, again, just like the Winged Spear, is really great against a lot of tough enemies in Stonefang, so it's a really good weapon for early game in that sense as well. The next weapon we're going to cover is very close to the Mercury Rapier, and that is the Estoc. The Estoc is a little tricky to reach. It's on a corpse right here. You can see it. This treasure right now that we're passing, that is the Estoc. The reason I'm mentioning the Estoc is it's not necessarily a special weapon. It doesn't have, like a Mercury upgrade or a crushing upgrade or any sort of infusion, but it does have a damage rating that is 5 points higher than any rapier. So it's a really, really good weapon, and it's easy enough to get. The other reason I want to mention this is because it's a wonderful PvP weapon, and that is because you can upgrade it with the Fatal Upgrade Path. The Fatal Upgrade Path gives you an insane damage boost to critical attacks, such as ripostes and backstabs. That said, however, the upgrade materials are hard to come by. They're found in Valley Defilement off of giant ticks or giant mosquitoes, as well as on the ground in certain places. But the Fatal Upgrade Path is wonderful on the Estoc. The base required stats are really low as well, with 9 strength and 12 dex required. So it's pretty good for early game if you just want a basic weapon to upgrade, and of course take to the Fatal Upgrade Path for PvP. Next up is my personal favorite, the Crescent Falchion +1. This weapon is available in the Island's Edge Archstone in the Shrine of Storms area. It is guarded by a dual katana-wielding red-eye skeleton knight. You can see it up there in that cliff. The way to that treasure is teaming with blue-eye knight skeletons, and those are quite strong. You will want to learn how to parry them effectively, and then they'll start dropping like flies. Once you go past the first fog wall, turn left, go into this tunnel, activate the booby trap, and wait for the 3 spikes to fly by you. And now it's time to deal with the katana-wielding Red-Eye Skeleton Knight. This guy is really strong. Red-Eye enemies are always stronger than their blue-eye counterparts. But this guy has 2 katanas, and he is just a man about his business. So, what you want to do is kite him back towards the entrance, and then run and get your treasure. What I personally like to do is throw in a backstab to push him even further towards the entrance, and then, while he's recovering, run to the treasure. If you have the Thief's Ring equipped, he will take a little while to kind of find you again and start chasing after you. But you could just drop off the cliff and then run back towards the Archstone and check out your newly claimed prize. There is a lot to talk about with the Crescent Falchion because the Crescent upgrade does quite a few things. First off, it has low base requirement stats, 9 strength and 10 dexterity. It has A scaling with magic, as well as a 120 bleed rating. Bleed damage is great against any humanoids. It forces them to bleed and take a bunch more damage. This weapon also has slash damage, which is great against a whole wealth of enemies. But the Crescent upgrade, or infusion that this weapon has, is really strong for a couple reasons. One, it provides passive mana regen. So if you're a caster, equip this weapon in your right hand and your catalyst in your left hand or your talisman, and then you will just passively regen mana over time. Double this with the Fragrant Ring, and you're going to be restoring mana at an alarming rate. Because this weapon also deals magic damage with its melee hits, any enemy that is weak to magic, such as Flame Lurker, which is everybody's first real gatekeeper of a boss, will drop much faster. Also, since it's a curved weapon, it has a different forward R1 attack. Instead of it just being an interrupting punch like it is with a regular straight sword, curved swords have a sort of backstep ability which allows you to deal a little bit of damage on your way back and sort of get your own footing and put some distance between you and an enemy. So this is a really, really strong early game weapon. The upgrade material required for the Crescent infusion is Moonshade Stone, which is found all throughout Shrine of Storms on a lot of different enemies and on a lot of corpses. In addition to the Crescent Falchion +1, there are a couple of other really good weapons right in this middle area near the Vanguard Demon. First is the Kilij, and then if we run past the Vanguard Demon, we're going to take a big hit from his Dozer Axe, but if we can just get past the Vanguard Demon safely, the Uchigatana is on a corpse tucked in this corner. Now, neither of them are necessarily super easy to wield in the sense of you just have to put a couple more points into strength or dexterity. They do require a bit more of an investment, but they are really cool, really strong weapons. And given that they are curved swords, you can upgrade these eventually to become the large sword of searching using the old hero Demon Soul. So the Kilij requires 14 strength and 10 dex. It has E and D scaling on strength and dex, and it is a slashing weapon with a base damage rating of 90. The Uchigatana has a base physical attack of 95 with a requirement of 18 strength and 13 dex with E and D scaling on strength and dex respectively. It also has 180 bleed bonus, and this is the only katana in the game that does not also damage you. The Cursed Sword Makoto, or Magic Sword Makoto, as well as the Hiltless will damage you in some sense. It has slash and piercing damage, which is a great sort of duality on this blade, but it does have high requirements relative to the rest of the early game weapons. Finally, there are two weapons available in the Depraved Chasm, which is level 5-1 in the Valley of Defilement Archstone. The first one is the Morning Star, which is available very, very close to the entrance. So we're going to take care of a couple of depraved ones here. This is a tough level to kind of clear everything out and then head back and do like a clean run through, so I figured I would just show it to you in real time. You want to drop down here and take care of this Fire Poker depraved one. He takes probably 4 hits with a barely upgraded weapon. And the Morning Star is that treasure you can see right there. So we can break some of this environment, some of these barriers, and then we can grab the Morning Star. However, this will wake up a Fire Poker depraved one right here. And some may drop onto your platform, so you do need to be kind of careful. However, we can slash this guy off, although there's another one that just woke up, so we got to take care of him as well. Just as a rule of thumb, once a depraved one wakes up in your playthrough, it will always be awake any subsequent time you move through that area, but the first time it's always going to be asleep. Taking a look at the requirements for the Morning Star, we see that it only has one real requirement, and that's 11 strength, which pretty much every single starting class can use. It does have a 100 bleed rating, which is really nice, poor scaling with strength and dex, and it only has a physical attack of 75 with a bonus of 11. But it is a blunt weapon, which means it will deal a lot of stamina damage to enemies, so anything that has a shield or a high block rating, using a blunt weapon will make really quick work of them. So it's really powerful for blocking enemies that you encounter early on in the game. Once you have the Morning Star, you can either call it quits and head back to the Nexus and continue on your adventure, or you can try to be a hero and go for the Blessed Mace +1, which is, hands down, in my opinion, the hardest weapon to get early game, just because of the amount of enemies you need to make it through. That said, all of these enemies are very weak, but they can deal a lot of damage to you and overwhelm you with their numbers. So we need to drop down through these roofs using the path I'm showing you, or you can take the long way across the bridge at the beginning of the stage, near where we found the Morning Star, but this is a bit, I would say it's a bit quicker and actually a tiny bit safer because I think there's less enemies and they won't sort of gang up on you as much as the other ones will. Also, none of them are necessarily hidden from view, whereas if you take the normal path, some of them will wake up and just sort of surprise you. Whereas with this method, you can sort of get them one-on-one a bit better. I will also mention that charging attack, where they just sort of use their dagger and hit you 5 or 6 times, this attack right here, it doesn't deal much damage on New Game. However, on New Game Plus and higher, That attack will eat through just about any shield and kill you really fast. So if you're trying to do this on New Game Plus, just be aware of that attack. But on a fresh new game, it's really not that strong. Okay, so once we're on top of this roof, we are now near the first fog wall. So we need to drop down in here carefully. There are a couple of depraved ones who have fire pokers that will sort of patrol back and forth if we manage to aggro them. And then there will also be another one with a dagger that has likely fallen down here. So we're going to do our best to take care of these fire poker ones as quickly as we can. Take out this guy. And then instead of heading towards the fog wall, instead what we're going to do is we're going to drop down to a shortcut area. So we're going to sort of walk the plank here, and then I left a hint right here that no one has raided. It's very sad. If you see this hint, please raid it. Okay, so from here, you can see some depraved ones down below, sort of wandering around. There are a couple doing what I like to call some gardening. There's a decrepit patch of grass right here. There may be 3 of them, there may be 2 of them, but instead of fighting all of them, at this point, don't loot this corpse. It's a red herring. It's just a storied warrior soul. But there's a giant tick guarding a corpse right here, and this corpse has the Blessed Mace +1. At this point, you're probably just going to die. It's a really tough level to get through, even if you're leaving it to last. These enemies can really, really overwhelm you. But once you have the weapon, you're free to leave, and now we can take a look at the stats on the Blessed Mace +1. Just like the Morningstar, it has a really low base rating of 11 strength, and it has E scaling on strength and dex, but it also has B scaling on faith, and that's because of the Blessed Infusion. This is a mace weapon, so it has blunt damage, which is great for any enemy that's blocking. The damage also scales with your faith stat, which is great for miracle builds. This also has HP regen because of the Blessed Infusion, and that regen also scales with faith. However, because it has a Blessed Infusion, it also lowers the strength and dex bonuses in exchange for that HP regen. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But this is a really, really strong weapon, and because of that HP regen, it's really useful in the early game. Blessed weapons can be upgraded using Faint Stone pieces, which can be found all throughout Swamp of Sorrows on various enemies such as depraved ones, and it is also sold by the Filthy Woman vendor, who can be found in 5.1 and 5.2. And that's it. That is all of, in my opinion, the best early game weapons that you can find in the game. They are all available after defeating Phalanx in the first stage of their respective archstone, with the exception of the Winged Spear that is available directly after you defeat Phalanx in the same world. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to help you out. If you're looking for more guides for Demon's Souls Remake, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new guides go live. If you're interested in supporting the channel monetarily, please consider becoming a channel member by clicking the blue join button below this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Twitch, and as always, I'm SweetJohnnyCage. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.